see, it doesn't just open by accident. It doesn't go off by accident. And you can't pull a trigger by accident. These are all acts of intent.
What's happened is that the prosecution has had its say initially. There's been an argument to the jury by the defense, and now the prosecutor, Van Pearlberg, is wading in till he gets the final word. It's his rebuttal summation. You will not be surprised to learn that Mr. Pearlberg is an amateur actor and has quite a flamboyant streak in him. Here he is.
Mr. Bogart tells you that you cannot rely on James Martin's testimony. Well, you know what, folks? Don't. Don't. Because, you see, we don't need Mr. Martin to show you what happened. And you don't need it. Because just think of the evidence presented without Mr. Martin's testimony. What else do we hear from Mr. Martin that he brings to this case? Well, he tells us where the gun came from. He tells us that Mr. Meehan goes and gets the gun out of the closet. And he tells us that what he's doing is he's sitting there and he's opening the cylinder. He's spinning the cylinder. He's clicking it. He's opening it, he's looking down the sights, he's examining it, he's clicking it. He's waving it around. That's what he's telling us. And then he shares with us that at that point, Mike McGee says, "Put the fucking gun away." And what does Heath Meehan do? He stands there, he says, "Are you afraid to die?" And that's what he does. That's what Mr. Martin told you under oath. Why is there no testing done on the shirt? Well, the gun's out here. That's what Mr. Martin told you under oath. Because recall, where was Heath Meehan when Mr. Martin was calling 911? Was he sitting there? Was he cradling his best friend? Was he having him in his arms? Mr. Bogart shows you the shirt and says, why didn't the state examine the shirt he was wearing? Well, let me ask you a question. If his friend, his best friend, is bleeding from the neck, the blood, the air is just sucking out, how come he's not cradling him, putting him in his arms? Mike, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mike. Show me the blood on it.
Well, we can see that the man perhaps is a pretty good actor. He's not necessarily acting now, but he knows how to project himself.
You know what? I'd bet dollars to donuts that between the time the firing pin hit the bullet and before that bullet came out of the muzzle, I bet you in his mind, he was going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But you know what? Tell it to him. Tell it to him. Mike, Heath is sorry. Folks, this was not an accident, like Mr. Bogart wants you to believe. When Mike McGee sat there and made that fatal mistake of challenging the tough guy with the .357, I want you to consider one of the charges that the court's going to give you. I expect the judge is going to tell you that to have a crime, you have to have two elements: an act and the intent to act. Well, the intent in this case was Mr. Meehan's intent to pull the trigger.
Well, I think we can assume that Prosecutor Van Pearlman has got the jury's attention